The biggest mistake people make with herbs and all perennials is soil prep. So what we want to talk about is some ways to make herbs work for you. Granite sand, a great thing. Not play sand, but granite sand. This is very coarse, very thick, and mixing it in with the soil mix. Now, of course, we have clay here in Georgia, so that's another thing to have to do. So in general, if you want to raise the bed, mound it maybe 8 to 12 inches tall, it's also important to go 8 to 12 inches deep, where you take and till up the sand into the topsoil, the potting soil. This is actually a container mix. It's a very light mix. That's the most important thing. Keep the soil light. None of these guys like any kind of heavy soils. We want to recreate this soil in the ground is what we're going to try to do. So getting it to drain in the ground is hard to do unless you really get the soil mixed up deep. So let's go down 10 to 12 inches into the soil, mix in your potting soil. With the clay, you may want to go about 2/3 or so clay, a good blend of the potting soil, and then top it off with a little bit of sand. And that's a good mix for most planting herbs and perennials, which need to dry out in between watering. So you want that water to get down deep. When you're planting the herbs, very gently lift them out of the container, and you might want to just take and gently open up the roots, not like a shrub where you can just tear them up. You've got your soil already prepared in the ground, and gently pull up the soil around the base of it. You might want to leave a little bit of slope off the bottom of it, but don't put any soil on top of the root system. Light soil's there. Then you come in front of that, you can come in with another grouping. Of course, this is great soil. We've made this soil up. Great opportunity. There again, come in and look at the great textures we've got here. Textures and colors, as well as having all the flavors you want in your garden. Sun, we need at least 6 hours of great sun, and these guys will actually last all winter long. So 6 hours of sun is great. You might even notice if you have less than 6 hours, say down to 4 hours, you may have a different taste in your herbs as well. When we talk about pots, let's talk about the king of pots. Let's talk about the pots that's been around for centuries, and that's clay. Clay is the best thing you can use because remember we talked about with soil, you've got to have good drainage. Clay will breathe. You'll keep them kind of miniature, in here, something nice and tall in the pot, and then hanging down off the sides. A great tabletop model that we have here. All different sizes of pots for strawberries. With the larger variety, you can use more types of herbs that will grow and hang down, the oreganos, the thymes that will creep down. Or you can go with a standard pot, something that's going to give you a little more standard size and shape that you could just put on your patio, whether you use a filigree on there. The most important thing with all clay is we've got to have the drain hole. The biggest decision we've got, the biggest problem we have, is trying to determine what you want to use when you're dealing with a limited pot. Besides using this creeping thyme, which we can take and break up because it's a seeded variety and we can put in these pots, it is absolutely fantastic to use around stepping stones. Like with any landscape setting that we're talking about, you want to create the height in the back of the pot, let it stair step down towards the front. Lemongrass, what a great plant. Look at the stems here. Or a cinnamon basil. There again, great stems, gives you some opportunity. This pot, there again, we could take inside, but stair-stepping the heights and mixing those textures. We've got chives, we've got the thyme, we've got parsley. All these elements create different colors and textures in the shade and the light, all these things we talk about in landscaping. But we haven't talked about flowers. Look, a very small flower, very pretty. This flower is edible, and it makes a great garnish as well. With a lot of your herbs, a little bit of abuse is even good. If you get it a little bit too leggy, a little bit too spindly, let's just take and cut it back, let it grow out, and that flavor gets rejuvenated all over again.